here on page 99, Breshit Yud, Pasuk Aleph, Genesis 10:1, and we'll make the comment that we did before. The chapter numbers are not Jewish, not divine. They were the invention of I believe 12th to 13th century publisher in Venice, who decided he wanted to make a printed version of the Jewish Bible, and he added these numbers and chapters, and they are completely a non-Jewish construct, and yet they were so useful that we certainly adapted them and have maintained them. But you'll see that the things that we really respect are the Petuchot and Skurot, the sections where the sentence will have a natural space, a new paragraph that will be defined in the scroll of the Torah when we look at that.
That's from us.
Right. So that is divine.
But even this guy who you're saying in the 12th century, the publisher, he also based it on our something by us also.
Yes and no. There are some quite obvious ones that just don't fit. So
why would he have done it that way? I mean,
we have a Masorah. He did it probably based on the Christian Bible, not on. So he probably did it.
But it's probably like that joke with the pot, where this girl she sees her mother cut up part of the chicken and throw it in the garbage, and she says, "Why?" She says, "Go ask your grandmother." And it turns out that you go back, the pot didn't fit. So it could be just like a stylistic thing. Mm-hmm. The pages, whatever, But if we had such a good, it's not like we didn't have our own divisions also. I mean, we had the Petuchas and Stumas.
We had Petuchas and Stumas, and we had Etnachta and Sof Pasuk. So we know what each sentence was.
But why didn't we have Prakim also? We had, because in the Jerusalem, the Koran thing, they do have alternate. We have our own Prakim also. And of course, on one side, you know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm obviously
the Koran version of the Torah, the Koran version.
Koran version.
Koran. Not the Koran, the Koran that we use in yeshiva and everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we also have, let's say, Perek Tet, aside from the Ptuchas and Sumas, and it's in a different place than what they say is Tet. So
this I'm going to have to look up.
Oh, you have to look at it.
I'm going to have to look up the differences between that.
Well, the most glaring one and the most obvious, how it shows that they don't know what they're talking about. Look at the very first, start the Torah. So it goes to 6 days, right, of creation, and then Shabbat. What we say in the Kiddush, right? Is that what we say? Right. So, and at the end of that's our first chapter in the Torah. Forget the openings and the closings. Paragraphs. There's a bunch of paragraphs. Every day is a different paragraph. But our first chapter is from Bereshit till the end of the paragraph about Kiddush that we say in Kiddush, right? By them, and then chapter 2. By them, chapter 2 starts with the Shabbat part, which shows that they don't realize that Shabbat is the completion of the week. They put it. That's the glaring one. What they based it on, I don't know. They're idiots. Well, you saw they changed the Shabbat to Sunday, anyways. Whatever.
Again, separation between creation and rest. So
so they don't see it as the culmination.
There's a natural break there. It's a batuach as well. It's a
that's what I'm saying. They based it on also.
Space,
but it just shows how they're wayward thinking, that they see Shabbat as a separate thing, whereas we see it, the culmination. Even when we say the days, there's a psalm you say every day, and it says this is the first. Shabbat is really the week. Shabbat is not just Shabbat, the day of Shabbat. Shabbat means the week. So they say this is the first. What's the wording? The first of the first day of the Shabbat, meaning the whole week. The second day of the whole week. So obviously Shabbat is the culmination of the week, and you see it by our divisions, by their division. You don't know where they're coming from. They're coming from Shabbat is a new creation. It's the opposite. 6 days are leading up. So that's the most obvious how they're. That's why it kills me that we go by their whatever word that's called, demarcations.
Again, useful and practical.
Excuse me, useful. Why? But we also have a chapter 2, but it's in the right place. So that's just as useful. We say it's not useful if it perverts the meaning. Why can't we say chapter 2 Chapter 2, sentence 1 is whatever comes after Kiddush.
Because then everybody would have to agree on
You mean Jews or?
Touche.
it. Yes.
And here they
There
were,
would have
by
to be,
now.
there
the
would have
fact
to
that
be internal consistency.
Not only
Everybody
that,
would
by
have to
now,
agree.
if the purpose was for the point of publishing it, he's now dealing with the masses, not just an elite group, the Jewish people. He's now dealing with the masses. So
No, but we have our own, especially now that we have Sansino and we have Art Scroll. We can go back to our sources.
let's change it next.
Okay, well,
We'll
again.
go back to it.
And slowly, and look at that Quran. I'm sorry you don't know. You know that.
Gaming
shit.
I know of it, but we don't know the differences.
You'll see the different colors. You'll see on one side is the Christian one, demarcation, and the other one, not psukim wise, at least parak wise.
Yeah. So.
I wish I had. Do you have a Karen, the commissioner?
Again, the question obviously would be one of consensus and accepted
There seems to be a Jewish consensus there. Yeah.
We will
I'm sure all the
continue
Jews agree that the paragraph about Kiddush belongs to the first parak.
Okay. Point well made.
Page 99, 10/1, and those, the Eila with the Pashta. So this is going to emphasize the word and focus us forward onto what's going to come after in an elevated sense. After Noach had died, his children were left on their own, and those were the carriers of the developing civilization, with all the details of individual variation and differentiation, as indicated by the double directional shape of the reading mark. So we'll notice that sometimes the notes have a particular place where they are put on the word, and if the syllable that's accented is going to be another one of the syllables within the words, then we will have a doubling of the note in order to both say that this is the note and this is the accented syllable. So normally Pashta will be at the last syllable of the word, but because we're not going to say the ele, we're going to say the ele, because we need to accent that a, the aleph of the word, and we have a second Pashta that appears over that in order to tell us that that's the accented syllable. So that's why we're talking about this being a double note, even though Pashta is normally a single note. In some of the commentaries that do mention the different notes, they will mention shtei Pashtaot. They will mention two Pashtas appearing on a word. And again, that's probably in order for somebody to correctly transcribe it into another book.
So it doesn't change the meaning.
It doesn't change the meaning, changes the accented syllable.
So why not? So you're saying
but
Pashta
as far as this perush goes, it does change the meaning. If you have a double note, there has to be something double about the word. So if you have a katon which has two dots, there's got to be two things going on. Here, when we have two pashtot instead of one, there's more than one thing going on. So we're saying those the things that each of the children did were different. There were things that these people did and things that those people did, and we're going to emphasize the multiplicity of things that each of the children managed to bring into the world. Toldot. Sorry, you had another comment?
So Pashta is usually where on the accent?
It's usually on the last syllable,
whether it's accented or not?
Regardless of which syllable gets accented.
Uh-huh.
Usually in Hebrew, the last syllable is the accented one.
Uh-huh.
But here, the nature of the word is that the first syllable gets accented. So that's why we have two pashtot.
See, that's where I'm confused. Why is the first accented?
That's the way you pronounce it. Well,
there's got to be a grammatical reason for that. There are certainly some words that are pronounced.
It's not, yeah.
So there are a large number of words that are pronounced with the second last syllable being accented.
Okay. So if this word is used at another time,
it
always accented.
Oh. Not ele. So we haven't
Okay, it's
changed.
not just
We haven't changed
here.
No. So we have words that are pronounced mil el and mil ra,
Yeah.
and The rules for that are escaping me. I do have them written down somewhere else, and I will bring them one week and we'll go over them. But in any case, this word is always pronounced that way, so that's why it gets
interesting that Nil-El and Nil-Ra are both, which is, they're both not. You think one is saying the accent on the first syllable, but they're both accented the same way. You think Nil-El would be accented one way and Nil-Ra would be accented the other way, but they're both. Which is which?
We'll get to it later. I think we want to go on.
Okay.
Generations Toldot with a munach with a zakev, part of a zakev katon. So this has the separation from what's come before and moving forward, and I think we can understand as we're talking about Noah's progeny that we're going to have a separation from what's come before and see what goes after. Specific characters and types of people that were born in the early stages following Noah became significant as phenotypes and protoplasts for their future offspring, and genotypes for their respective generations that built the history of many nations, as shown by the shape of the reading mark.
Wow.
So
these are going to be the 70 prototype nations. There's 70 prototype nations. You don't go by the United Nations today. Israel was the 71st.
We're going to see how they separate themselves out and what comes because of that separating themselves out.
So I just want to say, Corinne, when they bring 70 bulls on Sukkot, there's 70 corresponding to 70 nations. Even though there's more than 70 nations today, but don't go by that. There's 70 prototype nations. And in the Sanhedrin, there were 71 people, because 71 is Israel is the 71st. It has to be an odd number so that you can never tell.
B'nai Noach, number 3, with a katon, so this is again a two-part note, with two dots on top of each other, of sons of Noach. Number 3, the component elements of sons of Noach became arborized, turned into a tree, in a divergent direction, giving rise to differences between groups of common descent confined within a particular location, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So here we see that.
You weren't joking, arborized. You really meant it.
Yeah.
Like a family tree.
So different locations, different conditions made people do and act differently, and we see those differences reflected in the fact that we've got a two-part note.
Which is after the flood, where the continents are separate now. This is before the Migdal, the tower, but it's after continental drift and all that. They say, and what changed after the flood was the axis of the earth. So there were seasons now. There weren't seasons before. That's why people live so long. And yeah.
Number 4.
That's what it's referred to. He didn't say that specifically, but he's basically talking about continental drift now because people are going to different locations. And you'll see the ages changes now.
So we'll see also lots more of that in the story of the Tower of Babel. Right. So number 4, Shem with a tipcha. So this is going to.
But I'm saying I specifically said it that's because even though it's before the tower, that's a further. But already here it's already starting with the continent. No, you just that's ruining my life. Okay. We shouldn't be inhibited to say that. If they were here, I would say the same thing. Why should because they're in Israel, I shouldn't say? No. I hope you're listening. They're appreciating it.
Shem tipcha. So this is going to focus us backwards and have a slight separation after it. So again, I think we're going to learn some significance from this. The closest to Noach was Shem, being mentioned in juxtaposition to him. Right. Shem gets mentioned right next to Noach with a note that connects himself to Noach and then separates himself out from everybody else. Tipcha has a pause after it. He generated offspring with defined stigmata of his disposition as referred backwards by the directional shape of the reading mark. So we'll see that the descendants of Shem carried the good characteristics of Noach, as it were.
And Shem, Semites, that's where it comes from. Semite. Anyone from Shem, not just Jews. Arabs are Semites too. Even though now it's come obviously anti-Semites.
Ham.
It's Shemites. That's really what it is. Shemites. Anti-Shemites.
Ham with a munach, so this is going to separate us out from what's come from before and move us on to what's going to go after. Similar to Shem, Ham also produced children who displayed integral parts of his own personality, although remote from Noach, as stressed by the shape of the reading mark. So again, we have this separation in the words teaching us something about the characteristics of the descendants. And again, if you didn't know that there was a pause after a tipcha, and that a tipcha was a backwards looking note, you might say, here's a list. Here's Noach's children, Shem, Ham, and Yafet, and you'd sort of read that list together. And we have something new that's implied by the fact that Shem, comma, Ham, v'Yafet. So we've introduced that distinction. Not only that, that comma after Shem also has a backwards looking tie that attaches him to Noach, who's right before him, and everybody else is sort of separated out from him. So again, this is something that we would only know and infer if we knew the way that the notes create phraseology.
What I find interesting is that since his comment about Shem was that he's aligned with Noah, that's why he's closest to him, you would think that it would be Shem, Yafet, and Ham, which we never hear in the Torah. And as far as morality or whatever, that's the order. And with that other thing, when he's blessed that Yafet will be Ba'olei Shem, you would expect, if any two are going to be grouped, it would be Shem and Yafet, instead of Shem and Ham and Yafet. You know what I mean? That seems like a contradiction to what we learned before.
So what we have is we have good influence, bad influence, and the question of where Yafet aligns, but where Yafet aligns himself with. And we see that in most situations he's going to align himself with Ham.
The blessing. Oh, that was Noach's blessing when he said that that Yafet should be. But he obviously didn't pick up on the blessing.
So he had the opportunity, and
to go either way. And
we see that we see the way that he chose. Again, from the phraseology.
He was
Number
under the
5.
influence of Ham. That's why Ham comes up.
Similar to Shem, Ham also produced children who displayed integral parts, but it's separated out from Noach. Vayafet, number 6, and Yafet. Similar to the two brothers, and Yafet established his own composite inclinations, dividing them among his descendants, as denoted by the stabilizing shape of the reading mark. So he gets the etnachta, so he still has some good influence in him, even though he's tied to Ham. Vayivaldu.
You got that from what? Say it again.
So the fact that he's got an etnachta which has a stabilizing and perhaps a little bit elevated note to him. He's tied to Ham because he's tied with not only with the vav, but with the fact that the munach leads into the next note. Yeah. But he gets to stand a little bit above because he's got the etnachta which raises him slightly. Vayivaldu, this is part of a mercha tzivir, so the mercha is going to sweep us forward into what's going to go afterwards. It's still loosely tied to what's come from before. And they were born, number 7. Subsequently, there were further developments, and they were born different tribes with diversified interests and inclinations, as suggested by the directional shape of the reading mark.
Wait, I just want to wait. I know where you are. It's the pages bug me. 1 minute.
So we're on page 99, number 7.
If the words are in order,
when you get to number 7, you have to look to page 100.
I know, yeah. Okay.
Number 7.
You even made a mistake before. I was surprised, but okay. So it shows it's going to happen. That doesn't have to he never makes this.
When we connect to the 3 children of Noach, the mercha slightly connects us to them, but it's going to move us forward into what they're going to produce, what they're going to do.
You didn't read that yet, did you?
We're coming up to number 8.
Right.
Lahem. This is a tavir. Tavir has that dot that's sheltered within the mercha. So we're going to see a sheltering influence to what this word is going to be translated as. Number 8, for them. Eventually, specific dialects, customs, concepts, and legends have emerged, which varied according to location, and they became, for them, distinctly characteristic and part of their religion, as expressed by the shape of the reading mark. So the things that people are going to define themselves by is the land around them, the place where they are, their particular environment is going to shelter them, and therefore that shelter is going to define them. So we're going to
That's what's
have
being protected there,
the protection of their environment being what's going to eventually be something that they inculcate into themselves and their culture.
And since you mentioned Jabir, I'm getting. Remember when I asked about Hartavor and belly button? Is it with a tet or a taf? You said you were going to check it out.
It is with
Hartavor. Right?
It is with a tet.
Hartavor and belly button is with a. Because it's interesting. I thought it would be the severe is with a taf, and it is shaped like a belly button. So it's just a coincidence or something. Or I don't know. That's interesting. No?
Again, when we have homonyms in Hebrew,
It could be right.
we always say that there is
some connection. Right?
some connection.
Well, that would make sense here, right?
But not a direct one, and you have to both draw the words together and separate them out apart. Banim with a tipcha. This is going to focus us backwards on what's happened before and pause slightly after. Number 9, sons. Later sons of a particular line chose their occupations under the influence of various conditions of the environment, characteristic circumstances of the occupied lands,
Oh, yeah, I don't like that
and
word,
their
occupied
own
land.
physical and mental capabilities, as specified by the reverse direction of the reading mark. So we're going to look back on all the things that their progenitors had given them, and that's how they're going to be able to define themselves. And they're going to stand alone based on those defining characteristics, together with their own inherent abilities and talents. Achar, with a mercha, so this is going to move us forward into what's going to come after it. Number 10, after. Although all sons of Noach emerged from a monolithic family together with their father while in the ark, after they spread and exposed their own tendencies, as illustrated by the directional shape of the reading mark. So they're going to move out from there, become different based on where they are, and the after world is going to be different based on environmental influences, which are going to define cultural influences.
I should know this by now, but okay. But when the last word in a sentence, the only note is. Are you considering the sof pasuk a note?
The sof pasuk is a note.
And it belongs to that word that becomes.
It belongs
after,
to that word. The word is separate. If you the one book that I did find that defined what a sof pasuk is, it's actually the makaf that's under the bait there, that little knot, rather than the 2 dots. The 2 dots are stylistic and added later. They're not actually the definition of sof pasuk. But that's only one source that I found that defined that. So I'm not going to say that with any level of certainty.
So the makaf really is a note, sort of. You're saying, or not a note, but a.
Here it's a
grammar.
symbol of sof pasuk. Yes.
Right. So there is no note really under the last word, ever. Are there? If you don't consider the sof pasuk a note,
the sof pasuk is a note. But the question is,
sort of
what's the shape of the note? And the shape of the note, it ends up
either
being
the makaf or the
not
2
the 2
dots.
dots.
Okay, whatever.
But again, that's only a single source that I found that said that, so
But
I can't.
Is it really a note in a singing way, like
Absolutely.
achar? Like you go down, or whatever, just sort of say the word, no?
So it's monotone.
But let's go down there.
Ending a phrase, if you want to think linguistically,
the same way
in general, when you end a phrase, you do have your voice go down,
right?
Because then the other person next to you knows that there's a pause there, and then you can create another thought after you've finished with that. So you notice my voice is always going down. There's a terminal contour to whatever I'm saying that's at the end of a sentence.
But it could go sometimes out.
So you can define auditorily the way that a sentence.
Right, but that doesn't necessarily mean it would always go down.
Yeah. A period at the end of a sentence.
If it goes up,
then it could be a question
then
mark,
you think it's a question or an exclamation.
But we never have that note like
That's
that.
like English grammar. The period, you go down.
Right. But anything, right. But exclamation marks and all that. But we don't have the equivalent of that in the Torah, of exclamation marks and questions. You'd have to know just how to,
Correct.
Like that last pasuk in it's a famous story with Nechama Leibovich about Yonah. What is it? And you have Rachmanis on earth, but not on the animals, but not on the people. I told you there's a famous story. This taxi driver came into this and said he read it like assertive instead of.
So that's again why sometimes you'll see the Mefarshim, you'll see Rashi or so on comment bitmiha.
Bitmiha, right.
So he'll add the emotional context.
Yeah.
That this is said rhetorically, or this is said questioningly, or this is said with exclamation.
Mm-hmm.
So
but you would
agree.
think,
Sometimes why? Because
why?
ayin panim. Why do we have something that's flat? We have something that's flat and not defined. Because ayin panim laTorah. Because you could take the same phrase in a different way of defining it and get a different bit of meaning there. So if you tied yourself to a single expression, then that would be the only.
But why is it only on Sabbath? According to that, then there should be no notes, and we should read it 70 different ways.
Because the notes do define
right.
the notes define the pshat.
Right. So I'm saying okay.
So the question is, if the notes define the pshat, why don't you have a note for a question, a note for an exclamation? Don't have an answer to that. Other than the fact that this is something obviously that our Mefarshim step in and do tell us.
Well, originally it didn't have sentences even. That came later. Even the words, Moshe Rabbeinu was all one. It didn't even have words. Like it was all one
But again,
word.
Torah Shabbat Peh, we got that. That was given to us.
Into words, but not necessarily into psukim, I don't think.
Into psukim.
Into psukim too.
So, one of the rules that defines when you can correct the Balkore is if he makes a sentence that wasn't a sentence that was given to us by Moses. So,
if you do like run on.
So if you run on at the end of a pasuk, that's correctable, and that's specifically how it defines it. If you make a sentence that's not like the one that's given to us by Moses.
That's why I don't like it.
So again, that's part of Torah Shabbat Peh.
So you mean if someone doesn't do a pasuk in laning, they get
then
stopped?
it's correctable. The Gabbai and
they do correct that.
They should correct that.
My God, that'd be nice. Right. I stop with Nikud. I mean, if it gets more than
Number 11. The flood. Hamabul. Sof pasuk.
Because the Torah itself doesn't go sentence-wise like what we go by. They have run-on sentences there for sure.
But again,
in English we would say,
when we have those, that's because there's a reason to put those words together. Number 11. Only the common danger of the flood had united them and erased all individual differences, as had happened with all animals in the ark, but they reoccurred when the disaster was over. So the stabilizing influence of the flood was that it allowed this small time period of unity of purpose when everybody had to survive together.
In the ark.
But when the flood was over, that stability disappeared. Yeah. And we have a note. The sentence marks the beginning of nations.
Wait, what's the difference between note and remark, or is it interchangeable in this parish?
It's interchangeable.
There's remark and note to ben. Note to ben.
I haven't found a particular pattern as to things that he's adding as remarks and things that he's.
Okay, can I just stop this to be honest?
Okay, well we'll finish reading this sentence and then we can let you comment off tape. Or on tape if you'd like. Okay. But we're going to read, and when we read through, we're going to notice the separation between Shem's name and the name of the other two sons, and again how the word banim sort of attaches to the phrase before, but separates itself out from what's going to happen in subsequently to that. V'yele toldot b'nei Noach Shem Cham Vayafet Vayivaldu lahem Banim Achar Hamabul.
When you read, you don't read that slow.
I don't read that slow, and I don't overemphasize the pauses.
Right.
But the pauses are important in defining the rules for dots for beged kefet and long phrases and short phrases, itcha and itach and things like that, and vayafet. So again, that's at an etnachta. So things that are at a major pause will have a grammatical change to the vowels that are given. So normally his name is Yefet, but if we put him at a hard pause in a sentence, then the vowelization changes. And I think we'll end there for this week. Have a good week, everyone, and we will continue on.